The dashcam footage didn't just end a career, it exposed an entire corrupt police department. What happened that night on Route 27 would eventually trigger an FBI investigation, multiple arrests, and a scandal that Jericho County would spend years trying to bury. But at 11:45 p.m. on a humid Tuesday night in Georgia, none of that had happened yet. At that moment, it was just a dark road, steady rain, and a police officer who believed the badge on his chest made him untouchable, and a woman he thought was an easy target. He was wrong, very wrong. Rain dripped from the heavy southern sky, turning the asphalt of Route 27 into a black mirror reflecting the occasional flicker of failing streetlights. Inside a charcoal gray Chevy Tahoe, Special Agent Jordan Banks rubbed her tired eyes and adjusted the rearview mirror. It had been a long week. Tonight she wasn't dressed like a federal agent. No tactical jacket, no visible badge, just a navy hoodie, jeans, and sneakers. To anyone looking at her, she didn't look like someone who had dismantled cartel operations. She simply looked like a black woman driving alone. And for Officer Kyle Rock, that was all he needed to see. Jordan reached for her water. Then suddenly red and blue lights exploded. She exhaled slowly, annoyed, not afraid. She glanced at the speedometer. 54 miles per hour. The speed limit was 55. She turned on her signal and pulled onto the gravel shoulder. Behind her, the patrol car's spotlight immediately blasted into her side mirror. A classic intimidation tactic. Blind the driver, make them uncomfortable. Jordan didn't react. She placed both hands on the top of the steering wheel. In the mirror, she saw the officer approaching. He was big, broad-shouldered, walking with the lazy swagger of someone who believed the road belonged to him. The officer stopped just behind her window. His name tag read, Rock. His voice came out flat and impatient. License and registration. Jordan kept her voice calm. Good evening, officer. My purse is on the passenger seat. I'm going to reach for it. Is that okay? Rock didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned down and stared into the vehicle. Whose car is this? Jordan didn't move her hands. It's mine, she replied calmly. But first, I asked permission to retrieve my identification. This is a $50,000 truck, he said. You expect me to believe a girl like you owns something like this? For the first time, Jordan's eyes hardened. My name is Jordan Banks. I am the registered owner of this vehicle. Why did you pull me over? Rock laughed. You swerved back there. Suspicion of DUI. Then he jerked his thumb. Step out of the car. Jordan's voice stayed firm. I also have a dash camera recording telemetry. It will confirm I maintained my lane. His hand moved to the strap on his holster. Step out of the car, he repeated slowly, or I'll drag you out. Officer Rock, I need you to listen carefully. I am a federal agent. I am legally armed, and my weapon is holstered on my right hip. Rock stared at her, then he burst out laughing. Federal agent? Sure. And I'm the King of England. He suddenly exploded.
Oh, you listen?
He yanked the driver's door open violently. Get out of the car. Jordan held her ground. If you put your hands on me, you are assaulting a federal officer. Rock stepped back, and in one fast motion, he drew his gun. The barrel of a .45 caliber pistol pointed directly at Jordan's chest. Hands up, Rock screamed. Jordan slowly raised her hands. Okay, she said calmly, my hands are up. Look at me, Rock. I am Special Agent Jordan Banks, FBI. Badge number 8944. If you pull that trigger, there is nowhere on this planet you can hide. After a long pause, Rock gave a short nod, slow. Jordan carefully pulled the leather-toed cross and opened it. Inside was a gold FBI shield. She lifted it slowly. The gold seal gleamed in the darkness. Rock leaned closer. For a moment, he froze. Then he holstered his gun. But he didn't apologize. He leaned against the doorframe with a crooked grin. You actually went and bought yourself a prop, Rock said. Impersonating a federal officer is a felony. I'm adding that to the DUI. Officer Rock reached up and grabbed the radio clipped to his shoulder. His voice was calm, casual, almost bored. To dispatch, this is Unit for Alpha. I've got a combative suspect, female black, requesting a tow truck. Also, she's got a fake FBI badge. Inside the SUV, Jordan Banks watched him calmly. deep, steady calm settled over her. The calm that comes when a storm reaches its center. Jordan slowly lowered her hands. Her eyes drifted to the digital clock, glowing softly on the dashboard. 11:52 p.m. "You're making a call, Officer Rock," she said quietly. Rock looked back with a smug grin. "Yeah, I'm calling your ride to jail." Jordan reached toward the center console for her phone. Rock sneered. "Oh, this should be good. Who you calling, your lawyer?" Jordan tapped a speed dial contact. "No," she said calmly. "I'm calling the cavalry." The voice through the speakers was sharp. "Banks, this is Dispatch Atlanta Field Office. Why is your panic beacon active?" Ike froze. "Agent in distress," she said. "I have an armed hostile at my window. Local law enforcement officer Kyle Rock. I'm requesting immediate assistance." "Copy that, Agent Banks. Tactical team is 4 minutes out. Air support is 2 minutes out. Do not engage. Help is on the way." Rock's face drained of color. He slowly lowered the radio. Then he looked toward the sky. A distant sound rose helicopter rotors. Jordan smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was cold. Precise. "You hear that, officer? That's not eBay." A Bell 429 helicopter descended. Blinding white spotlight dropped from the aircraft and slammed onto the highway, pinning Rock to the pavement. For black Suburbans roared into position, forming a tight tactical box. Agents poured out, rifles raised. Their chests read, "FBI." "Federal agents," someone shouted. "Drop the radio. Hands on your head." Rock stumbled backward, his boots slipping in the wet gravel. Rock slammed into the wet gravel. Metal cuff snapped closed around his wrists. It sounded like a door slamming shut. Assistant Special Agent in charge, David Miller, stepped out. He passed Rock without even looking down. "You okay, Banks?" Jordan pulled out her gold FBI shield. Under the floodlights, it gleamed brightly. "Special Agent Jordan Banks, and you are under arrest. We're going to your precinct. I think it's time we had a conversation with this sheriff of yours at the Jericho County Sheriff's Department." Sheriff Caldwell stepped outside with a shotgun and a thick cigar. "What in the Sam Hill is this?" "I'm Special Agent Banks, and we have your deputy in federal custody." Caldwell's expression hardened. "You don't have custody of jack squat in my county," Miller said, "Sheriff. This is a federal investigation. If you interfere with a federal arrest, you become an accessory." Finally, Caldwell lowered the shotgun. He spat onto the pavement. "Stand down, boys. Be my guest." Jordan watched him go. He's scared. Miller nodded. He should be. Let's see what Officer Rock has to say. Officer Rock sits behind the steel cage of a federal SUV, looking out at the station he used to rule as the convoy drives away. The convoy disappears into the dark, the helicopter light fading in the distance as justice finally arrives in Jericho County. This is the end of the line. A cold beige room, a single metal table, and the weight of a badge that no longer exists. Kyle Rock used to rule these streets. Now he's just a broken man in a plain shirt, stripped of his power and his pride. Federal Agent Jordan Banks watches from the corner. She's the predator now, and Rock is finally the prey. Assat David Miller sits across from him. He doesn't need to shout. The silence in the room is heavy enough to crush a soul. Every secret eventually comes to light. Agent Hayes brings the proof that will tear this department apart. The screen doesn't lie. On one side, a professional doing her job. On the other, a monster in a patrol car. The footage shows the exact moment Rock crossed the line, pulling his weapon on a surrendering federal officer whose hands were clearly raised. Seeing himself on camera, Rock flinches. His own shouting voice echoes back at him, sounding like the ghost of his career. Miller breaks the silence with a cold reality. "Ack! That is 20 years," he says. "The price of a career built on extortion?" Jordan isn't finished. She slams a cardboard evidence box onto the table. The sound echoes like a gavel in a courtroom. She slides 7 driver's licenses across the table. 7 women who were hunted by the man sworn to protect them. The color drains from Rock's face. He thought these trophies were hidden safely in the darkness of his police locker. The bravado vanishes into a sobbing breakdown. To save his own skin, Rock is ready to burn every dirty cop in the department. By the next morning, he is inmate 4,922. The deal is simple. Give up Sheriff Caldwell and expose the entire rotten system. He describes a world of seized cars, stolen cash, and drugs being resold back to the same streets they cleared. Behind the glass, Miller and Jordan listen. It's not just misconduct anymore. It's a full-scale federal racketeering case. At his luxury ranch, Sheriff Big Jim Caldwell feels the walls closing in. He thinks a shredder can delete the evidence of his crimes. But justice doesn't knock. It arrives with the force of a battering ram, smashing through the gates of corruption. A dozen black SUVs flood the property. Jordan Banks leads the charge, now in full tactical black gear, a gleaming badge on her chest. Caldwell is dragged out into the light. Jordan looks him in the eye and delivers a final warning. Next time, think twice. As the sun sets, agents uncover the spoils of the extortion ring. Luxury cars bought with blood money and stolen dreams. Jordan looks up at the sky. The air feels cleaner now that the rod has been cut out from the heart of the law. Justice arrived all at once, proving that no one is above the law, and no badge is big enough to hide behind forever. Rock's defense attorney, a sweaty man in an ill-fitting suit, tried desperately to salvage something from the wreckage. He painted Rock as a stressed public servant, a man suffering from PTSD, a man who made a split-second mistake. But the jury wasn't buying it, not for a second. When the jury foreman stood to read the verdict, Kyle Rock was shaking violently. The courtroom held its breath. The foreman read slowly. On the count of deprivation of rights under color of law, we find the defendant guilty. Rock's shoulders collapsed. The foreman continued. On the count of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, guilty. Another pause. On the count of kidnapping, guilty. The verdicts continued, one after another. Each word struck like a hammer. By the time the foreman finished, the total had reached 22 guilty counts. Rock sat frozen. The courtroom felt heavier with every word. Sheriff Big Jim Caldwell fared no better. The RICO charges stuck like iron. The prosecution proved he ran a criminal enterprise. The king of Jericho had fallen. Then came sentencing. The courtroom grew silent as Judge Arthur Weiss adjusted his glasses. Kyle Rock stood in an orange prison jumpsuit. Tears streamed down his face. The swagger was gone. The bully had vanished. Judge Weiss spoke slowly. Mr. Rock, you were entrusted with a Baja symbol meant to protect the public. Instead, you used it to hunt. You didn't just break the law. You broke the public trust. You targeted vulnerable people because you believed no one was watching. Kyle Rock, I hereby sentence you to 22 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Rock's knees buckled slightly. Judge Weiss turned to the other defendant, James Caldwell. You are sentenced to life in federal prison. The gavel came down with a thunderous crack. The Empire of Jericho had officially ended. As the courtroom erupted into murmurs, Rock's eyes locked with Jordan Banks. She didn't smile. She simply gave him a slow, quiet nod. But the story didn't end inside that courtroom. Because prison has its own rules and its own justice. Rock was transferred to USP Coleman. He begged his lawyer for protective custody inside the SHU. Isolation meant survival. 3 weeks into his sentence, a guard unlocked Rock's cell. Pack your things. You're moving to D Block. Rock froze. That's general population. My voice cracked. There must be a mistake. I'm a former officer. D Block was a cavern of noise. Metal doors slamming. As Rock stepped inside, the noise slowly dipped. Heads turned. Predatory eyes. At lunch, Rock entered the cafeteria carrying a shaking tray. He tried to stay invisible. Then a voice cut through the room. Whoa! Officer Rock! Rock froze. Sitting at a nearby table was Marcus T-Bone Williams. Rock had planted cocaine on him 5 years ago. Williams stood up slowly. His eyes burned with cold patience. Everyone already knew the new inmate was a dirty cop. Rock dropped his tray. Food splattered across the floor. Stumbled backward and grabbed a guard's arm. Help me! The guard looked at him, then at Williams, and he slowly peeled Rox's fingers from his sleeve. I didn't see anything. The cafeteria door slammed shut. Rock stood alone, surrounded. The karma he created had finally come back, violently. 1 year later, the Georgia sun was setting over Route 27. Golden light stretched across the pine trees. Jordan Banks drove slowly in a convertible. This wasn't a government vehicle. This was her own car. Jazz music played softly, slowed near mile marker 44, the place where everything had started. The Jericho County Sheriff's Department no longer existed. A new precinct had been established, this time with strict oversight. Jordan touched the gold badge clipped to her belt. She was now a special agent in charge. She thought about Rock and Caldwell. Then she thought about the victims who could now drive without fear. Jordan smiled. A peaceful one. She shifted gears and accelerated down Route 27. The road ahead was clear. That's how one corrupt cop picked the wrong target. Power reveals who a person is, and no badge can hide the truth forever. Hit the like button and subscribe to Beyond the Gavel. Tell us, was 22 years enough? Type justice served below. Stay safe.